We don't always have time to get to the gym and perform the perfect workout. So, what is the maximum amount of benefit that we can get from the minimal time and equipment? Something that's so minimal that you could add it to some daily activities, such as simply going for a walk.
This routine is going to cover 4 different aspects, from aerobic fitness to strength to flexibility and even some mindfulness. So why a walk? Well, the most important aspect of this is getting outside in nature. Yeah, I can show you this 2021 review that details how getting outside in nature helps to reduce those negative effects of stress. It helps improve mental well-being, reducing anxiety, depressive symptoms, and it encourages you to be more physically active. But we know this. Getting outside in nature makes you feel good. And that's kind of the point of training. Taking more steps is associated with a progressively lower risk of all-cause mortality. If you're under 60, this is about 8 to 10,000 steps. If you're over 60, this is about 6 to 8,000 steps. However, to increase aerobic fitness, we need to do something just a little bit more intense. Now, I'm not a good runner, but you don't need to be good at running to get some benefit from it. Neither does it need to be long or particularly hard. 10 to 20 minutes at a pace that you can still maintain talking is a great place to start. This study shows that a 5-minute run equated to the same benefits as a 15-minute walk, and this other study showed some great reductions in all-cause mortality, cardiovascular disease from just 5 to 10 minutes of running per day. I've shown running here, but you could swim, cycle. It's just running is the most easily accessible form of performing this training. If you struggle to maintain doing that 10 to 20 minutes of work, we can do something called tempo intervals, which is every minute we would run or do an exercise for 10 to 30 seconds, and then we get the remainder of that minute as walking active recovery before repeating for the same duration, 10 to 20 minutes. It'll come as no surprise to you that being stronger and maintaining muscle mass is pretty great for you. What might be surprising is actually how little you need per week to see some great progress. This 2023 systematic review showed that on the lower end of just 2 sets performed twice per week and the higher end of 3 sets performed 3 times per week actually provided great gains in both hypertrophy and strength. One of the main factors is that these were performed at a high intensity, meaning we're around the 6 to 10 rep range. Bodyweight squats, push-ups are great bodyweight exercises when you have no equipment, but for most people they're simply too easy. We need to make sure that we make these hard for our ability so we fit in that rep bracket. If push-ups are too hard, then we can always try elevating the hands. If they're too easy, we can elevate the feet or move on to something like a pike push-up, which is going to isolate more the shoulder. For pulling, we can start with bodyweight rows because they're accessible to everyone. Being more vertical makes this easier, moving towards horizontal will make this harder. From here we can progress onto chin-ups or pull-ups. This is going to have most people covered. It's really the king of bodyweight pulling exercises. For legs we can make things harder by just moving towards single leg movements, like split squats. Gradually over time we reduce the amount that assisting leg is giving and move towards movements like pistol squats to make things harder. So after our aerobic work, try performing 2, maybe 3 exercises for 2 to 3 sets. You don't have to do all of these on the same day. You could do an upper body one day, a lower body the next, or full body. You can split it out however you want. And I'm going to throw up a bunch of examples that demonstrate how we can use basically no equipment to get some great training in. But it's not just about how strong we are, it's about how you move through these ranges of motion, which is where flexibility comes in. Like the strength training, you'd be surprised to know how little you actually need to see some good progress, especially if we incorporate it into our strength training by moving for a full range of motion. This study shows that with just 5 minutes or more per week, we can see some great improvements in range of motion. Time per session wasn't important, but the frequency in which we perform stretches is. Think of this as doing 5 days per week, 1 minute per stretch. Like the strength training, just pick 1 to 3 exercises and perform them for 1, 2, maybe 3 sets of 20 to 30 seconds effort. We want to focus on making sure we have the basics like shoulder flexion and extension, as well as targeting the hamstrings, the hip flexors, and probably the glutes. So you can make yourself a nice little stretching circuit. Finally, I wanted to mention some breathing techniques because I think we're all looking to incorporate some mindfulness into our practice. And I'm not particularly one for just sitting and meditating, but performing some breathing whilst walking is a great way to incorporate it. Trying to inhale for X amount of steps, say 3, 4, or 5, and then trying to exhale for a larger count, sometimes double of that first one. In through the nose, out through pursed lips or through the nose again, and perform that 5 to 10 minutes and let your mind shut off. When we take all of these different elements and add them up together, we end up with something that's going to take around 40 to 60 minutes. Remember, something is absolutely better than nothing. Even if you do that low end of the spectrum, we're still going to be getting outside. We're going to be walking. We're going to be doing some aerobic work, some strength training, some flexibility work, some breathing. There's just so much that's packed into a short duration. One of the key points of James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, is this element of compounding. All of these little choices that we make, they compound to a much greater effect towards our goals. Work on that low-hanging fruit and see where it ends up taking you. I'd love to hear how you get on with this one. This is something that I think is such a valuable option to add into your day. Please let me know in the comment section down below if you give it a go and how you enjoyed it and maybe what you modified, what you did to put your own spin on it. Other than that, you can always hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button if you want to join, not miss out on any more future videos. Other than that, catch you next one. Have a strong week. Peace.